Hey, how's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Crimsonpanda here with another episode of Mercenary Meta. Now, it's been 3 weeks since we did our last episode, so we have some new comps to look at and to go through. Now, all of the data is going to be coming from HS Replays, so if you guys aren't familiar with HS Replays, they have a mercenary section on the deck tracker, but it is unfortunately blocked behind a paywall. Now, I have paid for access so that I can share with you guys the best comps or the highest win rate comps in these type of videos. So if you like this type of video, then please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, because it really helps the channel out. It helps us grow and allows more people to watch the video and obviously get into mercenaries as well, because the game mode is obviously lacking that player base. So what we're going to be doing today is going through the top 9 highest win rate comps currently this week. Obviously Mercenaries is a little bit behind with the data collection on HS Replay, so this may be a few days out, but still, if you keep checking back here, you'll have something new to play every day, if you have, of course, these mercenaries available in your parties. So let's head over and check out the first comp. Okay, so comp number 1 is Old Gods. Now, Old God has a 69% win rate. We're going to be opening up with N'Zoth, Yogg, and Yasharaj. Obviously, there are Old Gods, and then we have Shadow on the bench, but with the addition of Maestra as well. So the idea behind this comp is to try and get your Rage unbounded to buff all of your units, including the summons that you get with N'Zoth, to just go for a turn 2 Rage Unbound to try and wipe out all of their board with massive amounts of attack. On turn 1, you're obviously going to be either chucking Yogg itself into the bench to bring out Maestra with the Mask of the Mimicry, or you're going to be chucking N'Zoth in there with Yogg's second ability to force a character to attack, so you don't necessarily use Yasharaj to go into the bench, and then you don't have access to the Rage Unbound on turn 2, so you don't ever want to be using Yogg's middle ability to do it on Yasharaj, and you want to make sure you queue up correctly and you queue Yogg first, so that Yasharaj can get an attack off as well on the same turn and doesn't jump back into the deck because of Maestro will already be out. And then we obviously are just using the speed combo. We're summoning a lot of stuff with N'Zoth, and that's just really good for Sylvanas, obviously being able to death volley, and Vol'jin is going to speed her up, plus it's going to speed up your other units as well if any die off. But 9 times out of 10 you're going to be synergizing with quite a lot of these mercenaries. So I will leave comp codes, so I'm not going to go through the equipments because I'm going to leave comp codes in the description below, so make sure you check that out if any of these comps look fun for you to play, or if you have access to these mercs and you just want to try it. Okay, now moving on to comp 2, we have a different take on Arcane Dragons. Now this is Arcane Dragons. It has 65.2% win rate, and it is opening with Nefarian, Trigor, and Reno. And then our bench is obviously the Arcane package. We have Tyrande and Longjin are basically the 2 Arcanes we're using. And then Nuzao is just in there because, 1, it's another beast, and if it dies, and it's very good to help protect Trigor from taking too much damage, but also still proccing his ability, because we're running the once your character loses Divine Shield, give them 6 health. It's going to obviously heal them up, and obviously you can access that Divine Shield with this merc as well. So your main strategy is to obviously use your Nefarian Trigor on Reno to just try and pop off with Trigor as much as you can. And then once your beasts die, and this is obviously giving you more dragons as well, you're using your Longjin and your Tyrande, because you have the Banderburst and Novas for each dragon and beast that has died. You're going to be gaining arcane damage to try and kill everything with the Arcane Slavo in the late game. So that's kind of this one. It's a very similar strategy to obviously just normal Arcane Dragons, but with the addition of 2 different mercenaries that is obviously showing some potential with the 65% win rate. Okay, now moving on to comp 3. As you can see here, it is Frost. There's obviously always going to be Frost in these types of videos because it's just super good, but this is a different take with 64% win rate. It is Frost Dragons. Now we're running the standard Frost package with local Arcane and Varden in the openers, and we're using Sinestra, Longjin, and Cookie as our bench. So this is obviously the dragon element and also nature as well, because the Yulon can, if you want to, use the mist to try and buff up a little Cookie snipe. Not really what you're going for. You're kind of going for a Jade Flame Buffet to keep your Sinestra alive, so you can just constantly back-to-back Twilight Extinction, dealing that massive damage to those late game blues, which are around quite a lot of the minute. There's a lot of blue comps out there, so Sinestra is obviously making a shine again to try and deny all of those. So that's kind of it for this comp. Let's take a look at the next one. Okay, next up we have another Frost comp, but this is a Frost nature. So we're going to still stick with Lokalar, Jaina, and Varden in the opener, and then the addition of Belinda to be able to tech in if you're going up against a load of blues at the start, especially if you know that any of those blues are going to be trying to attack. You can get that element, the elemental, to be able to prevent something that's going to obviously hurt you against just your usual Frost. And then we're using a different type of nature package. So kind of like the Tyrande Arcane build, we also have that ability with nature as well. So with the Band of the Wilds, giving your nature abilities affecting twice with the Indlu's Grace, we now have Bane and the Earth Mother Fury, which obviously crits reds for 50 and is going to happen twice with Tyrande's Grace, which is really, really strong. Also, the chain heal coming out to protect those Frost units as well, especially if, say, Lokalar survives and Varden dies off and you're still scaling with Jaina, you can bring him out for the chain heals as well, which is not too bad, but still effective enough to keep it alive for another like turn or two. But the main strategy is to use Tyrande and the Earth Mother Fury in the late game to try and clear off a lot of those mercenaries once they've obviously gone below 50 health. And if you get one kill and you set in their cooldowns as well, that's also really, really strong as well. Okay, so next up we have Trigor Pirates. Now this one was actually showcased in our last Mercenary Meta video because it was obviously quite high on the win rate scale. It is still quite high, 62.7% win rate is really, really strong still. So it's still up in those top 9 comps for all players at all MMR ranges. So we have Elise, Trigor, and Eudora, and then we're going to obviously use Maestra, Edwin, and Sneed. So the idea here is to use your Eudora's attack on turn 1, jump back into the deck with Maestra, proc in Trigor a couple of times with an Elise, buffing your bench at the same time, allowing you to have Edwin, Sneed, and Eudora on your bench getting buffed. That is also going to be really strong in the late game because your Black Flag is going to speed up all of your pirates and they're going to be quite beefy with the help from Elise, and Trigor is going to hopefully kill off a couple of the units that you go up against and you will hopefully be ahead of the game when it comes to that late game. Next up is Shadow Yasharaj. Now, I'm sure a lot of you have been playing Shadow Yasharaj or playing against it. This is a very popular comp on the ladder. I've been trying to counter it with the Golden Monkey comp, which is working efficiently, but unfortunately I'm not facing just Shadow Yasharaj on the ladder, so have to kind of switch between decks depending on if I'm going to queue up against the same opponent twice or not. But this comp is a super strong one, and like I said, it is a Shadow Yasharaj, so we got Yasharaj, Kazagos, and Vol'jin in the opener, your Shadow package, and then you're using Queen, Asura, Cookie, and Sylvanas. Now, Cookie is only there for the appetizers. The extra health really does help, and also the snipes as well in the late game are quite efficient as well. Queen Azura is there for heals. She's also got the scaling of the shadow abilities as well if you're going up against a super fast comp. But your main element here is to open up with Yasharaj. You're going to want to be Kazagos, get your golems out, the 2 divine shield units. That's going to be at 1 speed thanks to Vol'jin. Vol'jin's going to slow something down, preferably something you don't want to act or something you can kill without it acting. And then Yasharaj is going to use the Defiled attack, which is going to borrow attack from Kazagos, Vol'jin, and the 2 8/8 golems, going up to a ridiculous amount of attack and punching into a mercenary. So really, really strong opener, and also a really, really strong bench with that Sylvanas ability because of your golems. And obviously, if Vol'jin's still alive, having that shadow discount is just ridiculously good. Okay, now moving into the next one, we have Nature Summons. This is a 61.2% win rate. Now, the idea behind this comp is to obviously summon minions. So you're going to be using N'Zoth Spawn of N'Zoth, which is obviously going to summon the 15/15 immune. Cho is either going to summon his own minions or buff up the N'Zoth's minion when it comes out. Yulong is there for keeping your opener alive. He is going to be blocking, taunt, and stealth if you go up against Valeras and Renos. And he's also going to be giving 15 health to your characters as well. This is obviously going to proc the first time without any minions, but after turn 1, this is going to be giving all of the minions that summon health as well. And with Cho's Sash of Scrolls allowing them to take 8 less damage, they're going to get big pretty quickly, especially with Patience giving them attack and then Yulong giving them tons of health. And then in the late game, in order to keep those alive, we're using Nature, which is Malfurion, and the Light Roof Staff. This is going to continuously heal those mercenaries. Cookie's there because of the obviously the nature synergy with the speed and the snipes. And Sinestra is obviously denying all of those blues that you might come up against, especially in the late game. Now, next up, we have another Shadow Yashiraj comp. Now, this is exactly the same as the previous comp, but instead of the cookie, we're running the Lich King. Lich King obviously got the buff on the Death Coil, so now the Death Coil always restores health to the Merc. So once you deal 18 damage to the enemy or restore 13 health, this is obviously going to restore 10 health to this Merc. So we get the health into the Lich King and also dealing damage, which is a super amount of damage actually. When it comes to the green units, you're going to be dealing 34, which is pretty strong. And then yeah, because it's Shadow as well, this is going to go down to a 1 speed, so it's almost like a cookie snipe or a really big heal on something if you absolutely need it. With Azura out as well, once you cast a Shadow ability, getting that extra health as well, it does end up adding up and keeping your mercs alive a little bit longer than they probably should be. Okay, and last but not least, we have a Frost Nature comp. Now, this is the only one that dips below the 60% win rate. It's 59.6. And as you can see, it's exactly the same as the other Nature Frost comp, apart from Bane is now not using the Chieftain Feather. He is using Totemic Mastery to be able to summon a totem to hopefully prevent enough damage so that you can get your Tyrande and Bane ability off in the late game. It's just something a little bit different, which isn't counting on any heals. It's just going for a really big late game AoE if you absolutely need that. So definitely try it out with the Totemic Mastery and the Chieftain Feather. See which one you prefer personally. The Feather obviously is doing a little bit better on win rate, but it depends what comps you're going up against really for that to take too much effect. Okay, now that is it for this episode on Mercenary Meta. They are your 9 comps. I will leave comp codes for every single one in the description. I hope you guys have liked this format. I know nobody else is doing it like this, and being able to use that information from the HS Replays Mercenaries tab. I know it's behind a paywall and it's difficult for a lot of people to be able to have access to that. So I'm hoping this does really help you guys. And if it does, then I would really appreciate a subscription from you guys and also a thumbs up so more people can see this video. Come back, get as many comps as you want, enjoy the game, hopefully some new mercenaries soon, along with the expansion, and enjoy your day, and I'll see you in the next video.